As Kenya's parliament mulls over the introduction of comprehensive sex education in schools, the health sector is lining up innovative technologies to curb new HIV infections among adolescent population.
Well, this comes against the backdrop of a spike in new HIV infections in the country in over a decade, where individuals aged between 15 and 29 account for over half of new infections. And as Laura Otieno reports, Kenya is now relying on the remaining donor support to put in place sustainable structures to increase options of HIV prevention among adolescents and eradicate the AIDS epidemic.
These are my private parts. The melodious tune of young voices welcomes us to this facility at 5 Ways Nyalenda Estate in Kisumu. These are my private parts. Every Saturday afternoon, this song signifies the start of a session on sexual reproductive health for teenage girls drawn from this informal settlement in the city. 24-year-old Sharon Obilo is the chaperone of this group, where the youngest is a 10-year-old girl. For 5 years now, Sharon has dedicated her weekends to peer education, a treacherous journey, she says, that saw her labeled as an outcast in the early stages.
Unajua ukiwa grassroots, venye wanaelewa ni different na ukiwa in a town setup. So ukiwa grassroots na uanze kufanya hizo maprops, unawaelezea venye condom inatumika, like wanaona ni kama unafunza watoto tabia mbaya mapema.
According to the Kenya Demographic Health Survey of 2022, the sexual debut age in Kenya is 15 years. However, the National AIDS and STI Control Program, NASCOP, indicates that children as young as 9 years have engaged in some form of sexual activity. In July this year, Kirinyaga woman representative Jen Njeri introduced a bill in Parliament seeking to introduce comprehensive health education in the curriculum as a core subject. The bill sparking debate on the floor of the House on exposing children to inappropriate information.
We already have health education in our schools. We have reproduction health in our schools. In the curriculum that is already there, we already have health education. And when you talk about comprehensive, what is comprehensive?
Access to the right and the correct sexual information is not a question of morality, Honorable Speaker. It is a question of enabling our children to make the right decision when it comes to protecting themselves, Honorable Speaker.
The bill, coming 2 years after the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development thwarted a push by civil society groups to introduce comprehensive sex education in schools, arguing that the move was equivalent to violation of children's rights as prescribed in the Constitution of Kenya. However, recent statistics indicate a worrying trend where the teenage pregnancy prevalence rate stood at 17% in 2021. In a report by the National AIDS and Endemic Diseases Control Council, slightly over half of the new HIV infections in 2021 occurred among the adolescent population. Despite the numbers pointing to sexual activity among teens and adolescents, it is illegal to offer sexual health services to this now emerging risk population.
I'm looking at opportunities where we can have structured, correct information, and we find structured ways of delivering this information to young people without causing harm. If we wait for them to turn 18, we'll have lost where the problem started.
Even so, the Ministry of Health is running a 5-year study with partners under the Mosaic project funded by PEPFAR that is introducing non-oral forms of preventing HIV infections. Under the study, dubbed Catalyst, women aged 18 and above in Mombasa, Kisumu and Nairobi counties are issued with a vaginal ring that releases the drug dapivirine over a 28-day cycle to offer protection against the virus. Kenya introduced oral PrEP in 2017 to the mass population, where a HIV-negative person would take a pill to protect them against HIV. The pill has, however, registered a low rate of adherence, prompting researchers to seek alternatives.
You see, a HIV negative person is most of the time well. They are not sick, but you're compelling them to take a pill every day. And that is why with this research, we are trying to look at longer acting methods. One does not require you to remember to take the pill every day, because once you have the ring inserted or you have the injection, then you forget about visiting a facility for a while.
Some of the products in the pipeline, we have a dual, or we call them multi-purpose technology, where we are trying to look out for a product that can prevent pregnancy and prevent HIV, because young girls are saying they are more afraid of becoming pregnant than getting HIV.
As the country approaches or targets to achieve 0 new infections by 2030, for us, this is an important milestone, because for these long-acting prevention methods, we are going to at least improve on other areas.
This is a problem that the whole global community is grappling with. Ours is now just to be able to prioritize how we put more investments into HIV prevention and other public health interventions, but also to be able to develop interventions that can be able to give us more health for the shilling that we spend on each of the activities. So we'll be able to work together with all partners, including the county governments, communities, and that is why we have had a fundamental shift as to how we deliver healthcare services, moving from curative healthcare services to preventive. And you know, in preventive, when you spend $1 in return, you save $14.
With the government hitting the road to adapt to new technologies, Sharon charges on. One song at a time, empowering young people in informal settlements on their sexual and reproductive health rights. As Kenya looks inwards to strengthen its healthcare system, stakeholders are calling for an upscale of civic education among adolescents on matters of sex education to not only stifle the growing numbers of new HIV infections, but foster an informed society. Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.